Ladies and gentlemen, this is an article that came out on QZ.com. One of Africa's poorest countries has pulled the plug on a $400 million China funded airport. Sierra Leone just canceled on this loan from China. They don't want it. And Sierra Leone is not a poor country. See, these folks came in there, the colonizers, and they're making you believe you have nothing when you have everything on this earth. There is a reason why America, China, Europe all have military bases right there in Africa. You don't put military bases there unless there's a great interest in that country. So they played the old okey doke years ago, but I'm glad this leader of Sierra Leone has wised up and he's not going to play the game along with China. Good for him. Good for him. And he made this decision a month after meeting in Beijing. Sierra Leone's president has turned its back on China's offer for a $400 million airport. President Julius Maada Bio, who took office in April, has canceled a loan deal signed by his predecessor for China. So the previous president signed this deal. He came in there and said, hell no. Good for him. And this was for China to build a $400 million international airport. And oh, wow. I love it. The government now says the project is uneconomical given its only existing international airport is grossly underutilized. So they're saying they already got an airport there that's not being used that much. So there you go. The new airport was supposed to be completed by 2022. Sierra Leone's aviation minister says the country's sole international airport will be renovated instead. Good for them. The government is also considering building a bridge to connect Freetown, its capital city, to Lungi, the town where its only international airport is located. Travelers currently have to travel by boat from Freetown to Lungi. Sierra Leone's decision to cancel the project tails earlier signs by the World Bank that the airport loan would increase its debt burden. It also comes at a time when China's so-called debt trap diplomacy in Africa is increasingly under scrutiny. And it should be, because what China is getting in return is way more than what they have offered. Don't let them try to con you into believing that your resources are nothing. Your resources are everything. That's why all of these nations are in Africa. Okay, so good. He didn't fall for it. In March, Rex Tillerson, former U.S. Secretary of State, criticized China's economic model in Africa, saying it endangers Africa's natural resources and its long-term economic, political stability. And if you want to see what China does, just take a close look at China. China is reckless. You know, they done tore everything down in their own nation. That's why they're trying to now jump in and take over Africa, because they done destroyed China. Okay, it's a sentiment China has been keen to rail against. During the FOCAC summit last month, while pledging an additional $60 billion, that seems to be their magic number, isn't it? $60 billion funding to African nations, President Xi Jinping claim China's win-win cooperation policies with Africa follows the principle of giving more and taking less. No, it's all subliminal. You know, yeah, 60 billion sounds like a lot, but in comparison to the resources that you have, it really is not that much. Okay. Cooperation policy with Africa follows the principle of giving more and taking less, giving before taking, and giving without asking for return. No, since it's a poor nation, why don't you give them the money and not expect anything in return? See, you know what? That would be the big thing to do. But we know you're not about that. See, it's all about trickery and trying to trick these African people out of their resources. Okay, but platitudes aside, data shows China's millions might alone some African nations. Their money will put many African nations in the red. And that's exactly what China wants. They want you to default on the debt so they have a reason to flood their people into your country and dominate it. But see, they wouldn't dare let you do that in China. That's why you should not let them do it in Africa. You should not let them do this. For instance, China accounts for over 21% of Kenya's external debt after increased borrowing, and Zambia's government has been forced to deny reports China could take over its national electricity company if it defaults on its mounting loans, which they will. Sierra Leone is one of the world's poorest countries, and they shouldn't be because that whole country, just like many other African nations, sits on many resources and oil. So they shouldn't be poor at all. And was ranked 184 out of 189 countries in 2017 Human Development Index. It has been trying to stabilize. Okay, so they've been trying to stabilize their economy for over a decade, and I do know it's very true. They had many civil wars and deadly combat. They had to also fight off Ebola in Sierra Leone. So they had many problems. In fact, the friend that I had here in the United States that was from Sierra Leone, when his mother died, he couldn't even go back because in that same area, they were having a civil war. And people would try to have funerals and they would be shot at in the cemeteries. So he couldn't even go back to his mom's funeral when she died. It was too dangerous there. News of the plan to cancel the Chinese airport loan comes a few days after a team from the International Monetary Fund wrapped up a 3-week-long mission to the country. The IMF said the country's economic environment remains challenging without output growth expected to be under 4% amid high inflation as it's still recovering from a recent loss in the iron ore mining and reduced activity in the non-mining sectors. The fund also welcomed the country's attempt to stabilize its public debt and improve economic management. That's the best thing for you to do, Sierra Leone. You know what? Just struggle your way out of it. Don't take nothing from China because that'll be their excuse for coming in there and taking over. And next thing you know, you'll be looking around and Chinese signs are all over the place. You don't need that in Sierra Leone. Keep them out. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. And by the way, there's a lot of Israelites in Sierra Leone. Peace, family.